Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. We begin in Ottawa, where Mark Carney unveiled his first cabinet as elected Prime Minister on Tuesday. In a two-tiered cabinet of 28 ministers and 10 secretaries of state. 2 Indigenous MPs have been appointed to cabinet and another as a Secretary of State. All 3 are newly elected. All were sworn in by Governor General Mary Simon at Rideau Hall. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
The new cabinet contains a number of new faces. This includes Northern Quebec MP Mandy Galmasti, who takes over at Indigenous Services Canada. Galmasti is the former head of the Grand Council of the Crees and the first Indigenous person to oversee ISC. Northern Manitoba MP Rebecca Chartrand has been appointed to Northern Affairs. Chartrand identifies as Anishinaabe, Innu, Dakota, and Métis. Northern Saskatchewan MP Buckley Boulanger, who is Métis, is the Secretary of State for Rural Development. In a press conference at Rideau Hall after announcing the new cabinet, Carney said his team will govern for all, regardless of who Canadians cast a ballot for in the recent election.
So whether you voted for this government or not, we are in your service, in the service of building a stronger, more united Canada. We will build and we will govern for all Canadians. Build big, build bold, build now.
In another press conference on Parliament Hill, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said the new Prime Minister may be trying to project an image of change, but his cabinet contains many faces who served with former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, including new Justice Minister Sean Fraser.
Sean Fraser was the immigration minister who caused the immigration crisis, the housing minister who gave us the housing crisis, and now he's the minister responsible for addressing the Liberal crime crisis. It seems like he is the master at failing upward.
Northwest Territories MP Rebecca Alty is the new Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. Her predecessor, Gary Anasandagri, moves from that portfolio to public safety. And Patty Haidu goes from ISC to Jobs and Families. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
It's been more than 4 years since an Innu man of Matamakush, Lac John, died due to hypothermia while experiencing homelessness in Montreal. At a press conference this week, Coroner Stephanie Gamache released a report on Raphael Naba Andre's death. Savannah Craig has those details.
Matamakush Lac John Chief Riel McKenzie says he traveled 12 hours to Montreal to hear the coroner's report on the death of Raphael Naba Andre. But he still can't understand why no one helped prevent his death.
You have an answer like, no room? Come on, forget the rules and come in, my son. Come in, my friend. That's a human being. That's what we should do.
Naba, an Innu man from Matamakush Lac John, passed away in 2021 after being refused entry in the open-door homeless shelter due to COVID regulations. Naba's autopsy identified that he died due to hypothermia while sheltering in a porta-potty near the open door, where he sought refuge during Quebec's COVID-19 nightly curfew.
Il faut s'indigner du constat que plusieurs portes ont été fermées à M. André dans les jours précédant son décès et le soir du 16 janvier 2021.
Coroner Stephanie Gamache is putting forth 23 recommendations to avoid a similar situation from happening again.
J'ai identifié 5 thèmes sur lesquels mes recommandations sont basées.
They include ensuring a centralized follow-up for homeless people seeking various healthcare institutions, developing a site welcoming intoxicated clientele with acquired brain injury, assisting homeless people in a culturally safe way, considering the specific needs of vulnerable people in emergency contexts, and the need to ensure permanent funding for emergency accommodation. She says these recommendations are addressed to the province of Quebec and City of Montreal.
Il faut tous reconnaître que son décès était évitable.
Gamache says Indigenous people make up 1% of Montreal's total population, but account for 13% of people experiencing visible homelessness, according to 2022 data. She says this signals to the need for all healthcare network workers to develop culturally secure approaches.
La réalité autochtone de M. André et l'absence de services culturellement sécuritaires autour de lui ont constitué des défis supplémentaires dans son parcours. Fier de sa culture et de sa communauté, c'est lorsque M. André a pu s'exprimer par des projets d'art qui intégraient ses origines qu'il a connu un certain bien-être dans sa trajectoire de soins et de services.
Chief Mackenzie says he's bringing this report back to Mattamakush Lac John to share it with his community.
I have a responsibility to explain the whole case, and that we're going to take the time, especially for the family of Napandre and the rest of my community. And the whole nation about that history, we're all pulling together to hope that happen again. That's it.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
To BC now, where the hunt is on to find the owners of 2 pit bulls that allegedly attacked a man. APTN's Tina House has this story and a warning. Some of the images and content in the story are disturbing.
This is where I was bleeding, and that's where the dry blood is still on the grass here.
It all started on the morning of Sunday, May the 11th, Mother's Day, when 56-year-old David Peter, who lives nearby on the Stahelas First Nation, went out for his daily 6-kilometer walk. He says upon nearly finishing his walk, he passed by a gray Ford four-door truck parked in this pullout beside the Hemlock Valley Road, and that's when he saw a middle-aged couple and their 2 pit bull dogs. He says he wasn't alarmed at first, but then he noticed the dogs weren't on a leash and were coming for David aggressively.
I was walking backwards away from the dog, and the black dog was lunging at me, and then he got me on the forearm, and then after he was biting away at my forearm, he tried to get at my face, and I was using my arms to try to protect my face and other areas of my body, and when he couldn't get to my face, he bit into my arm right here, and he was just, his jaw and his teeth were locked right into my arm.
David says while the black dog was attacking his left arm, the brown pit bull was attacking his right arm at the same time. The owners tried to retrieve their dogs, but the dogs did not respond. The attack took place right here in the bushes beside the road. The vicious attack lasted for 5 minutes, and then finally they released David from their grip.
As soon as the owners got up the hill, and I seen that they were about 4 or 5 feet from their truck, and I phoned 911 right away. And
luckily, David had cell service, and the operator kept him on the phone for 33 minutes, awaiting the ambulance. But he says he was close to blacking out and in severe pain, bleeding profusely. He says he also sent a Facebook message to family that he needed help.
I messaged them, and they came, but they had a hard time to find me.
The attack left David with a mangled left arm that required over 50 stitches, visible teeth punctures, scratches, and bruises. The attack happened so fast, and there were no other witnesses, but he shared with us what he remembered.
They were really mean-looking dogs, and the truck was a older gray truck. I think it was a Ford. The lady had blondish white hair. I think they were either in their 50s or 60s, the couple. And they got their dog in a vehicle, and I was right here on 911. They turned their truck around, and they came back down the hill, and they drove by me. The guy, the man, didn't say anything, and the lady said, "I'm so sorry," and she said that when they left. She said, "I'm so sorry," and then I drove by, and the lady said, "I'm so sorry," but they left me laying here.
The brutality of the attack has shaken the community, and the emotional toll is also evident. His friends and family came to do a smudge with him and sing an honor song for his healing. Tim Felix is a counselor for the Stahelis First Nation. Have the police been notified?
They have. There's a file open, vague description, and the leadership table, administration, organization thought right away we better do a media release, because with the amount of information the police had, we didn't think that justice would prevail because they had so little information. So we thought putting this out into the media release would hopefully help identify the culprits.
David Peter is a father, grandfather, and now great-grandfather to a 9-week-old baby boy. And despite all he's been through, he's grateful it didn't happen to anyone else.
I rather that happen to me than a child or an elderly person. I hope that the owners of dogs get the message to keep their dogs on a leash. I really hope that you find it to be able to turn yourself in and to be take accountable for what those dogs did to me.
We reached out to Agassiz RCMP but did not hear back for an interview. David Peter has filed a police report. If you know who the owners are of these 2 pit bulls, please contact the RCMP in Agassiz. Tina House, APTN National News, Stahelis First Nation.
Time for a quick break, and then some Indigenous tourism ideas for this summer in Manitoba. Welcome back to APTN National News Weekend. The Make-A-Wish Foundation made one Mi'kmaq youth's dreams come true 2 years after he received a kidney transplant. As Angel Moore reports, he's going on the trip of a lifetime.
That is Rowan Barry Francis. He is 9 years old, and he got his wish to take his family to Disney World in Orlando, Florida.
I was surprised. It's a full-on surprise. I didn't know what I was doing.
Rowan is a typical young boy and plays his favorite game, baseball, at the field in his community of the Eskasoni First Nation in Unamagi, Mi'kmaq for Cape Breton. But 2 years ago, Rowan's kidney went into failure, and he was on dialysis for 6 months. Sophie Francis is Rowan's mom and was in the process of donating her kidney, but Rowan became very sick and needed one immediately. An anonymous donor was a match.
When you get a kidney transplant, it's only a temporary fix. Eventually, Rowan's kidney might go into rejection, and then he'll have to do the process all over again. So they estimate around 10 to 15 years.
Rowan is happy to no longer be on dialysis.
I feel wonderful lucky. It took me 7 months to get a kidney, and I feel very lucky.
The wish was granted at the Elduek Art Centre in Sydney, Unamagi. Rowan is taking his grandparents, Barry and Frederica Francis, to Disney World.
We want to thank Make-A-Wish Foundation for granting Rowan a wish. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of fun because Rowan is an amazing kid. And we have been through a long, long journey and a lot of stress. And we thank God for everything.
Rowan's wish was also sponsored by the seafood company Clearwater, which is 51% Mi'kmaq owned. Jerome Jones is a company representative and says Clearwater has supported Make-A-Wish for the last 20 years.
And it makes a difference. You know, something small gets something massive. So you can see from what he's looking like now with all his family, it's been a pleasure to be involved with.
The Francis family is close and often gather at the family home.
Well, that's an inquest without the widget.
Sophie says in Mi'kmaq that she's happy Rowan is well and he wants to share his journey. A journey that also means keeping himself healthy.
I have to stay on low sodium diet, and I got to take my medicine, my pills, and I have to do a lot of water, and it's kind of hard to do stuff when you're little like me.
Rowan is grateful for the support of his family and his community.
I gotta take care of that kidney, so I'll be fine.
According to the Kidney Foundation of Canada, 1 in 10 people in Canada have kidney disease, and over 3,000 people are waiting for a kidney transplant. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Eskasoni First Nation, Unama'ki, Nova Scotia.
Thank you.
Love that story. It's that time of year now when we look for new adventures and experiences after hibernating in our homes throughout the long winter. As many folks are choosing to stay on this side of the border during the tariff war initiated by U.S. President Donald Trump, Indigenous-owned tourism businesses are waiting to give you an experience like no other. Sav Jonesa brings us that story.
Ashley Smith is getting her Indigenous tourism business ready for the summer. It's an off-grid yet totally glamorous 4-season camping destination in Riding Mountain National Park.
We built it to feel like a teepee where you're really low to the ground with lots of windows and lots of cool air, and you hear the sound of nature, but you're safe from the elements as well.
Turtle Village is comprised of 8 year-round micro cabins or turtle shells, along with ice fishing huts for winter, thanks to a crystal clear lake a short walk away.
We did create it with a Murphy bed so that you could lift this up in rainy days, or if you just want to come and hang out.
She says it's going to be a busy year. More and more people are choosing to stay away from the United States amidst President Donald Trump's tariff war on Canada.
We've been going off and discovering the world, but I think we're in an era and a time that we just need to go in our own backyard, and we're going to see how great and beautiful of a country we have.
Over in Winnipeg, we went to the Wyndham Garden Winnipeg Airport Hotel on Long Plain First Nations Urban Reserve to speak with Indigenous Tourism Manitoba CEO Holly Kershane. She says the Indigenous tourism sector is growing rapidly in Manitoba.
We know that travelers, whether they be international travelers or domestic travelers, they're looking for those authentic Indigenous stories and those experiences.
With more than 170 Indigenous tourist experiences to choose from throughout the province, Kershane says supporting them during your staycations also means contributing to reconciliation.
A lot of these businesses and experiences are telling their story about being an Indigenous person, where they come from, the history of, their community and their family. So when you visit these experiences and you hear these stories, you're actually learning about Indigenous people and history.
As for generational connections to the land, Smith says her ancestor was one of the first to create winter lodging in Riding Mountain National Park more than 200 years ago. Now, she's here continuing the legacy with her family of 5.
If you're thinking about doing Indigenous tourism as an Indigenous person, it's actually very suiting to who we are as people, because you can bring your family, you can set your own hours, you can develop it and structure it however you want.
To find more Indigenous tourism businesses to support, check out indigenoustourismmanitoba.ca. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The 28th edition of Vision Quest was held in Winnipeg this past week. We'll take you to the floor of the trade show after the break. Welcome back. The 28th annual Vision Quest took place in Winnipeg this week. The conference brings together thousands of people to inspire one another. It's also a place to show off your crafts and small businesses. That's where TR Wheatley went shopping earlier this week.
Indigenous business folks coming together in one space, vendor after vendor, each with its own little niche.
These are good for smokeless smudge.
Sprays, lip balms, lotions, and soaps, all made by Lac Seul band member Francesca Amin.
So I started Sweetgrass Soap in 2021. I actually started in my kitchen. I started formulating soaps for my son, actually, because he had cradle cap, eczema, always had skin problems, and I found that most of the big brands in stores, well-known big brands, had too many sulfates, parabens, which penetrate skin, make skin inflamed, and cause these kind of dry skin irritation stuff. So I decided to look into homemade soap. My best seller is the Deadly Auntie. This is the one I'm most well known for. It smells amazing. But yeah, give it a try. Yeah.
Amin's business is based out of Langley, British Columbia. She says many Indigenous-owned stores across the country carry her products.
So my website is sweetgrasssoap.com. You can place an order online.
Family game night res style is also an option. There are 16 life-sized games the Smoke Sisters from Dakota Plains First Nation created through their business, Ninawaste. The idea brings games like Hoodis, Scrabble, Yardsie, and more to your backyard party. With just 1 year in business, Tana Smoke says they've already learned a lot.
Definitely a positive going in is that we do work full-time outside of our business, and I'm an accountant of 13 years, rails and sales and marketing going on 6, so that definitely helped us in getting our business started.
Rael Smoke says they are already planning to expand with hopes of adding 5 new games a year.
So we've always been like a big gathering gaming family. Every time we get together, we always play a game with the kids and the family. So that's kind of where we stand it on games first.
This shirt vendor was also quite popular with patrons coming and going. Chris Thompson's business, Warnge, started in his basement. He says his family are jokesters and they just started a play on words and logos already out there.
Yeah, we have a lot of deadly items, Deadly Auntie, Deadly Cookum, just Deadly. We're starting to get more into more like traditional looking designs, female designs, floral designs. Yeah, our website is www.warnge.com, WARNGE.
With a silk on top of it, and then they just have the ribbons. And then we can make them in any colors that you need to, right?
And what's an Indigenous craft market without the traditional items? Roberta Bear and Tika's Boutique have been a staple at the Forks in Winnipeg for over 2 decades.
The website is, we have tikasboutique.com, and you can find us on Facebook, what else, Instagram.
Becoming a place to help those just starting out.
We actually, with all of our stores, we actually deal with probably 100 to 200 different crafters on a yearly basis that drop off little pieces, you know, where it helps support their household.
And supporting one another being one of the original goals of what the visionaries of Vision Quest set out to do all those years ago. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
It was a great Vision Quest. Very happy to have been back to MC for, I believe, the 7th year. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. You can stay up to date with the very latest, of course, by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Stick around. APTN Investigates is up next. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.